Dr. Gennari's photoceptors dilated as her excavation drone transmitted impossible data. The artifact buried beneath Kepler-4 for Tabi's Crimson Sands was old, impossibly old, and still functioning. Her triple-jointed fingers danced across the holographic interface, verifying the readings for the 7th time in as many minutes. "This can't be right," she whispered in her native Velkari, her voice creating harmonic overtones that expressed profound confusion. Her research assistant, a young Hrathen named Kilos, scuttled closer on his 6 legs. "What have you found, Doctor?" "A power signature, active after 2.8 million years." She pulled up the spectral analysis. "And the composition?" "Kilos, this matches the Forbidden Archives. This is pre-Concord technology. The color drained from Kilos's chromatophores. Every species in the Galactic Concord knew what that meant. There was only one civilization that had been deliberately erased from history, their very existence classified at the highest levels. Human. He breathed. Gennari nodded slowly. She had spent her entire career studying the Concord's redacted history, piecing together fragments that the Elders wanted forgotten. Humanity, the category red species. The contagion that had nearly destroyed galactic civilization before being forcibly devolved and imprisoned on a high-gravity world designated Terra 3. "We need to report this immediately," Kilos said, already reaching for his communicator. "Wait." Gennari's command harmonics stopped him cold. "Just let me document this properly first. This could be the most significant archaeological find in 1,000,000 years." What she didn't say was that it might also be the last thing she ever discovered. The Concord's punishment for unauthorized access to Category Red materials was severe, but some truths were worth the risk. The artifact began to pulse with light, and across the galaxy, detection arrays that had been silent for epochs suddenly screamed warnings into the void. Supreme Coordinator Felrix received the emergency summons while attending a cultural symposium on the aesthetics of nebula formation. His people, the Ashen, had ruled the Galactic Concord for 800,000 years through careful diplomacy and an almost religious devotion to stability. In all his 3 centuries of service, he had never seen a priority alpha alert. The council chamber was already filled when he arrived. Representatives of the 73 member species creating a cacophony of worried communication. The holographic star map at the chamber's center showed something that made his respiratory spiracles clench. Red markers. Dozens of them, spreading outward from a single point in what had been designated the dead zone. "Order!" Felrix's voice carried the weight of authority. "Someone explain this catastrophe." Fleet Commander Drazik, a grizzled warrior from the militant karate species, stepped forward. "Supreme Coordinator, at 0847 Galactic Standard Time. Our deep space monitoring stations detected multiple faster-than-light breaches, originating from Sector 001, formerly known as the Soul Containment Zone. Impossible. The gravitational cage has been broken." Drazik's for eyes held no comfort. 17 distinct vessels have been detected so far. Crude FTL signatures, but functional. And Supreme Coordinator, they're accelerating outward in all directions. A Velkari delegate rose on quivering legs. "Please tell us these are not." Category Red confirmed. Drazik interrupted. Genetic markers match archived samples. Supreme Coordinator, the humans have escaped. The chamber erupted. 3 million years of nightmares, of carefully constructed myths about the species too dangerous to exist, suddenly made real. Felrix raised his manipulators for silence. How many know? The data is spreading fast. Within hours, every member world will. An alert chimed. Then another. Within seconds, the entire chamber was receiving the same transmission. BROADCAST on every known frequency, with the crude power of a civilization that had just learned to shout across the stars. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel Pathfinder. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship among the stars. We are ready to join the galactic community. The translation matrices struggled with the alien language, but the meaning was clear, and perhaps more terrifying than any threat. They were naive. They had no idea what they were, what they had been. They don't remember, someone whispered. Felrix stared at the innocent message from monsters who had forgotten their own monstrosity. Initiate Protocol 17. Full quarantine. Nothing gets in or out of that sector. And somebody wake the Eternal Guard, Supreme Coordinator. The Eternal Guard hasn't been activated since the category read imprisonment. Are you certain? I am certain that our ancestors built the most elaborate prison in galactic history for a reason. Felrix's voice was cold. We're about to be reminded why. Captain Sarah Chen floated in the observation dome of the Pathfinder, watching stars that no human had seen in. Well, she'd thought in forever. The revelation had come 3 days ago, delivered by their ship's AI after cracking the encryption on an ancient satellite network. Surrounding Earth. They weren't explorers. They were escapees. Captain, her first officer, Marcus Webb, drifted up beside her. The crew is asking questions about the data we found, about what we are. Sarah didn't look away from the stars. What did you tell them? The truth. That our Earth was an artificial construct, a prison. That humanity once spread across thousands of worlds before being forcibly devolved by an alien coalition that feared us. And their reaction? Marcus was quiet for a moment. Mixed. Some are angry. Some are scared. A few think we should turn back. Turn back to what? A cage. Sarah finally turned to face him. Marcus, according to those archives, our ancestors were monsters. They enslaved species, weaponized planets, committed atrocities that make our worst historical nightmares look like children's games. We're not them, aren't we? We broke out of a prison specifically designed to contain us. We violated who knows how many laws just by existing outside that system. And now, she gestured to the console showing their unanswered peace broadcasts. Now we're being ignored. Or worse. What's worse than being ignored? The proximity alarm answered before Sarah could. A massive vessel, easily 10 times the Pathfinder's size, had appeared at the edge of their sensor range. Its design was elegant, ancient, and its weapons were very clearly targeting them. This is Concord. Enforcement Vessel Unyielding Justice. A translated voice crackled over their comms. Human vessel, you are in violation of Containment Protocol 7. Power down your drives and prepare to be boarded. Sarah's hand hovered over the communication panel. This was its first contact with the civilization that had imprisoned them. Every word mattered. "This is Captain Sarah Chen. We mean no harm. We're seeking peaceful. Your intentions are irrelevant. You are category red. Your very existence outside the containment zone constitutes a threat to galactic security. Comply or be destroyed." Marcus looked at her, waiting. The crew watched their monitors. Across the ship, 147 souls held their breath. Sarah thought of Earth, of the children being born in orbital habitats, of humanity's desperate push toward the stars. They hadn't asked to be monsters' descendants. They just wanted to be free. Negative, unyielding justice. "We are not your prisoners anymore." She cut the channel and turned to her tactical officer. "Evasive pattern Delta. Get us out of here, Captain." Their targeting. The Pathfinder lurched as energy weapons tore across their stern. Warning klaxons screamed. Sarah gripped her restraints as her ship, built with salvaged FTL technology and human stubbornness, fled into the dark. Behind them, the Conquer. Vessel gave chase, and in that moment, an uneasy peace that had lasted 3 million years shattered like glass. The data packet arrived at Genari's research station 3 hours after the first battle. Unauthorized, encrypted with protocols she shouldn't have possessed. Sent by someone within the Conquer. Who apparently shared her curiosity about forbidden history. She opened it in her private quarters. With all recording devices disabled, the files were devastating in their completeness. Full records of the Category Red War, unredacted footage of human atrocities. But also, and this was what made her photoreceptors water with grief, evidence of what came after. The debate in the ancient Conquer. Had been fierce. Half the species wanted complete extermination. The humans had committed crimes that demanded cosmic justice. But others, led by the Ashen and Velkari, argued for a different punishment. Not death, but rebirth. They had broken humanity down to its evolutionary components. Homo sapiens, Neanderthals, Denisovans, all carefully seeded on Terra 3, a high-gravity world that would make space travel nearly impossible. The plan was elegant. Let them evolve again, naturally this time, without the technological acceleration that had made them so dangerous. Except something had gone wrong, or perhaps right. The humans had evolved faster than predicted. Not the millions of years the Conquer. Had calculated, but mere millennia, as if some part of their genetic memory had guided them, showing them shortcuts up the technological ladder. Genari dug deeper into the files, her translator struggling with ancient human languages until patterns emerged. Stories, myths, legends of fallen civilizations, of Atlantis and Lemuria, of ancient astronauts, and lost knowledge. By the founders, she whispered. They remembered, not consciously, but they remembered. And if they remembered that, what else might be locked in their genetic code? The capacity for violence, yes, but also the innovations that had let them conquer thousands of worlds in mere centuries. The adaptability that made them thrive in environments that killed other species. The psychological resilience that let them function in crisis after crisis without breaking. The humans weren't just dangerous because of their technology. They were dangerous because of what they were. Because evolution had forged them in a crucible of ice ages and predators, scarcity, and survival, creating a species that simply refused to accept limitations. Her communicator chimed. Kelos's panicked harmonics filled her chamber. Doctor, the Concord has issued a general alert. All civilian vessels are to evacuate the frontier sectors. They're mobilizing the Eternal Guard. Doctor, they're going to exterminate them. They're going to finish what they couldn't do before. Gennari looked at the data in her possession. Evidence of humanity's crimes, yes, but also evidence of the Concord's decision to play God, to punish an entire species for the actions of one generation. She had always believed in the Concord's wisdom, in the necessity of order, of stability, of preventing chaos. But watching footage of human children on Terra Free, building cities and dreams with no memory of their ancestors' sins, she wondered if the greater crime was the one about to be committed. Kelos, she said quietly, I need you to do something that will end both our careers. Doctor, I need you to help me contact the humans. Sarah Chen sat in the Pathfinder's damaged bridge, reviewing casualty reports. They'd escaped the Concord ship, but not unscathed. 7 dead, 23 injured, and their FTL drive was running on borrowed time. Captain, we're receiving a transmission, the comms officer called out. Unknown origin, but it's using human mathematical constants as an introduction. Someone wants to talk. Sarah straightened. Put it through. The hologram that materialized was alien tripedal, with photoceptors that shifted through colors Sarah had no names for. But when it spoke, the translation was clear and urgent. Captain Chen, my name is Dr. Gennari. I am a Velkari archaeologist, and I am risking my life to contact you. You need to know what's coming. We already know. Your people made it clear we're not welcome. My people are terrified of you, but they're more terrified of the truth. Gennari sent a data packet. I'm transmitting historical records. Your true history. What your species was. What was done to you. And what the Concord is about to do. Sarah opened the files, and the history of human civilization, the real history, unfolded before her eyes. The glory and the horror, the achievements and the atrocities. The empire that had burned bright and terrible before being forcibly erased. Why are you telling us this? Gennari's colors shifted to what Sarah's translator marked as profound sadness. Because you deserve to know what you're being punished for, and because what the Concord is planning. The extermination of your entire species is being done in the name of justice. But it's not justice, Captain. It's genocide disguised as prevention. How long do we have? The Eternal Guard will reach human space in 17 days. 5,000 warships, Captain, built specifically to counter human tactics. You cannot win this fight. Marcus leaned over Sarah's shoulder. Then what do you suggest? Surrender. Return to our cage? I suggest you survive. Gennari's photoceptors locked onto Sarah's eyes. I suggest you show the galaxy that humanity has changed. That you're not the monsters of legend. Because right now, you're proving their worst fears correct you broke out. You're spreading, and you're refusing to comply. Sarah felt the weight of every decision pressing down on her. Behind her, the bridge crew waited. Beyond them, 17 ships full of humans who'd done nothing wrong except be born from the wrong species. What would showing them we've changed look like? I don't know, Gennari admitted. But you're going to have to figure it out in the next 17 days. Or humanity's second chance ends the same way as the first. The transmission ended, leaving Sarah staring at the historical records of horrors committed in humanity's name. They were the descendants of monsters, trying to be something better. With the executioner's fleet already in motion, she turned to her crew, seeing fear and determination in equal measure on every face. "All right," she said quietly. "We have 17 days to save our species. Let's get to work." The Emergency Council convened in Earth's orbital station Unity, a desperate gathering of humanity's scattered leadership. In the 17 days since Dr. Gennari's warning, humanity had managed to recall most of their exploration fleet. But the numbers were stark. 19 ships, carrying perhaps 30,000 souls total, against an armada specifically designed to exterminate them. Admiral James Rodriguez, formerly of the Brazilian Space Force, now commander of humanity's accidental navy, stood before the holographic display. "The Eternal Guard will arrive in 96 hours. Our defensive options are limited meaning non-existent," Captain Chen added from her position at the table. The Pathfinders sat in dry dock, too damaged for combat. "Their ships outgun us 50 to 1. Their shields are 3 generations ahead of anything we've cobbled together. And they've had 3 million years to study how our ancestors fought. Then we don't fight their way." The voice came from the back of the room. Dr. Michael Zhang, theoretical physicist, and the man who'd cracked the FTL equations that started this whole crisis. "Our ancestors failed because they tried to win through superior force. We can't do that, but we can do what we've always done: adapt." "Adapt how?" Rodriguez demanded. "We're talking about 5,000 warships crewed by species that have been training for this scenario for longer than our civilization has existed." Sarah stood, her fingers dancing across her datapad. "Dr. Gennari sent us something beyond just warning. She sent us the Concordot's own files on human psychology. What they fear about us isn't just our weapons, it's our unpredictability, our refusal to accept defeat, the way we turn disasters into opportunities." She brought up a star chart. "They expect us to defend Earth, to bunker down and make them pay for every inch. But what if we don't? You're suggesting we abandon our homeworld?" Rodriguez's voice was ice. "I'm suggesting we make them question everything they think they know about us." Sarah highlighted a system 2 weeks away at maximum FTL. "This is Kepler 442b, where Dr. Gennari made her discovery. It's also the site of one of our ancestors' worst atrocities, a colony world. They strip-mined to extinction. What if we went there? What if we started rebuilding it?" The room exploded in argument. Voices overlapped, some calling it cowardice, others madness. A few grasping at the audacity of the idea. Marcus Webb, Sarah's first officer, cut through the noise. "You want to turn a war into a rehabilitation project? I want to make them see us differently. The Concordot is coming to destroy monsters. What happens if they find something else instead?" Dr. Zhang leaned forward, his eyes bright with understanding. "You're not trying to win a military victory. You're trying to win a moral one. There's no morality in Extinction, Rodriguez growled. They're not coming to debate philosophy. They're coming to finish a genocide. Maybe Sarah met his gaze. Or maybe they're coming because they're terrified. And terrified people can be reasoned with. Sometimes, if you give them a reason to pause. An older woman, Dr. Patricia Okonkwo, Earth's chief xenobiologist, spoke up. It's a tremendous risk. If we divide our forces, concentrate on this gesture, we'll be even more vulnerable. We're already vulnerable, Sarah countered. 17 days. Remember, we don't have time to build weapons that can match theirs. But we might have time to build a reason for them not to use their weapons. The vote, when it came, was narrow, 11-9 in favor. Sarah wondered if she'd just convinced humanity to walk peacefully into its own extinction. High Inquisitor Malkith stood on the bridge of the Eternal Guard flagship Sovereign Judgment, watching the tactical displays with ancient satisfaction. His species, the Krona, had fought in the original category Red War. He'd been young then, barely to centuries old. But he remembered the terror of facing humans in battle. They'd been brilliant, ruthless, and utterly unpredictable. Traditional warfare became chaos when humans were involved. They broke every rule, exploited every assumption, turned every defeat into some new horror. Sir, the human vessels are moving, his tactical officer reported. They're not heading for defensive positions. Malkith's crest extended slightly. Explain. They're abandoning Earth. All ships are converging on Sector 447. The Kepler 440 to system. Former human colony site. Destroyed in the war. A trap. No defensive installations detected. No strategic value. They're just... Go in there. Malkith studied the projection, his mind racing through possibilities. A feint, a diversion, some new weapon hidden at that location. Maintain course for Earth. Send a reconnaissance force to Kepler 442. I want to know what they're planning. But as the hours passed and reports filtered back, Malkith found himself increasingly disturbed. The humans weren't preparing for battle. They were building, terraforming equipment, atmospheric processors, biological seeding packages equipment for resurrection. Not war. They're trying to rebuild the colony, his intelligence officer said. Confusion evident in his translated voice. They're repairing the damage their ancestors caused. Why? Malkith demanded. This makes no tactical sense. A message arrived, broadcast on all frequencies. Captain Sarah Chen's face filled his screen. High Inquisitor Malkith, I understand you were there during the war. That you saw what my ancestors did to this world and countless others. I'm asking you to see what we're trying to do now. The camera panned across the dead planet's surface. Humans in environmental suits, working alongside massive machines, planting the first seeds in soil that hadn't seen life into 0.8 million years. We can't undo the past, Sarah continued. We can't bring back the billions who died, but we can try to heal what was broken. We can choose to be builders instead of destroyers. We're not asking for forgiveness that's not ours to demand. We're asking for the chance to be something different than what we were. The transmission ended. Malkith stared at the screen. Memories of burning worlds warring with the image of humans planting trees in ashes. Sir, Your orders? Malkith was silent for a long moment. Then, hold position. I need to consult with the council. Dr. Gennari SRS came quietly. To Concord security officers arriving at her research station with the courtesy of those who knew she wouldn't resist. She'd expected this the moment she'd sent that first message to the humans. What she hadn't expected was to be brought before Supreme Coordinator Thelrix himself. In a private chamber, rather than a prison cell, Dr. Gennari, Thelrix said, his voice tired. You've committed treason. Shared classified information with a category red species. Given aid to the enemy. They're not the enemy, she replied, keeping her harmonics calm. They're victims of their ancestors' crimes, a distinction without meaning. They carry the same genetics, the same capacity for destruction, and the same capacity for change. She met his gaze. Have you seen what they're doing on Kepler 442? A transparent attempt at manipulation. They think if they play gardener, we'll forget what they are. Gennari pulled up her own research on a holographic display. I've spent 30 years studying category red artifacts. Do you know what I found? Evidence of human colonies that lived peacefully with other species. Cultural exchanges, artistic collaborations, scientific partnerships. Yes, there was horror, tremendous horror, but there was also beauty, complexity. They weren't monolithic monsters. They were a species capable of both tremendous good and terrible evil, which makes them more dangerous, not less, or it makes them like us. Gennari's colors shifted to defiant orange. Supreme Coordinator, what did we become when we destroyed their civilization? What moral authority do we claim when we're about to commit genocide against a species that's done nothing wrong in 3 million years? Thelrix was quiet for a long moment. You know I can't release you. I know. But I also know you're stalling the Eternal Guard. That High Inquisitor Malkith requested a delay. That there are questions being asked in the council chambers that haven't been asked in ages. Questions are not answers. No, Gennari agreed. But they're a start. The Eternal Guard arrived at Kepler 440 to 3 days later than originally planned. The delay had been officially attributed to tactical reassessment. But everyone knew the truth. The council was divided. Malkith led a delegation down to the planet's surface, where Captain Chen and her senior officers waited in a prefabricated habitat. Through the transparent dome, they could see human workers laboring in the toxic atmosphere, protected only by suits as they prepared the ground for life. This is impressive theater, Malkith said without preamble. But it changes nothing. It's not theater, Sarah replied. It's penance, and it's a choice. She led them through the habitat, showing them the plans. Centuries of work, mapped out in meticulous detail. Atmospheric correction would take 50 years. Soil remediation another 30. The first sustainable ecosystem might emerge into 100 years. We know we won't live to see it completed, Sarah said. Our children might not either, but we're doing it anyway because it's right. Because we refuse to be defined solely by our worst moments. Malkith watched human workers through the dome, saw the determination in their movements. Your ancestors would have built weapons, would have fortified this world, and made us bleed for every meter. Our ancestors were wrong. We're trying not to be. And if I order the bombardment anyway, If I glass this world with you on it? Sarah met his multiple eyes without flinching. Then you'll prove that the conquered dot is exactly what humanity was so afraid of losing control. That they'd rather destroy than adapt. You'll prove that in 3 million years, you've learned nothing. The words hung in the recycled air. Around them, diplomatic staff from both sides held their breath. Malekith's crest slowly retracted. The council has been debating for 3 days. Half want to proceed with extermination. Others argue for renewed containment. A few radical voices suggest integration. What do you want? Sarah asked. I want the nightmares to stop. Malekith's voice carried centuries of pain. I want to stop seeing the faces of those who died in the war. I want to believe that species can change, that the universe isn't locked in eternal cycles of violence. Then help us prove it. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple, Sarah interrupted. You have a choice, just like we do. You can be the person who prevented a genocide, or the one who carried it out. There's no middle ground here. Malekith looked out at the dead world slowly coming back to life, at humans working to heal wounds inflicted before their species had even evolved, at the audacity of hope in the face of annihilation. The Council wants proof that humanity has changed, that you're not just biding time until you're strong enough to seek revenge. We're literally planting trees on a dead world. How much more proof do you need? Live among us, Malekith said abruptly. Human communities integrated into conquered space, subject to our laws, our oversight. Prove through generations that you can coexist peacefully. That sounds like a gilded cage. It's a compromise. Your species gets to survive. The galaxy gets assurance that you won't repeat history. And perhaps, in time, trust can be built. Sarah thought of Earth, of freedom, of everything humanity had fought for. Then she thought of extinction. I'll need to consult with our leadership. You have 12 hours. Then the Eternal Guard either stands down or proceeds with its mission. The debate raged through the night. Admiral Rodriguez argued it was surrender, that humanity would never be free under such conditions. Dr. Jean countered that survival was the first step to freedom. Others pointed out they had no leverage, no ability to negotiate better terms. Sarah listened to it all, then stood. We're thinking about this wrong, she said quietly. We keep asking what we want, but that's not the question that matters anymore. The question is, what do we owe? We don't owe them anything, Rodriguez snapped. They imprisoned us for crimes we didn't commit. No, they imprisoned our ancestors for crimes they absolutely did commit. We're only here because the Conquered chose rehabilitation over extinction. They could have killed everyone. Instead, they gave humanity a second chance. And we've spent that chance breaking out and demanding they accept us on our terms. So we should be grateful for our cage. We should be humble about our history. Sarah pulled up the files Gennari had sent. Look at these. Really look. Our ancestors didn't just conquer, they erased. Species that existed for millions of years, gone because they stood in humanity's way. Worlds burned. Entire stellar nurseries weaponized. We were a plague, and the Conquered stopped us the only way they could. That wasn't us. Someone protested. It's in us, Sarah countered. The same drive, the same refusal to accept limits. We cracked FTL in decades because we're human. We don't accept impossible. We escaped a high-gravity prison because we're human. We don't accept confinement. Those traits made us both great and terrible. She looked round the room. Malkuth is offering us survival with conditions. We prove we can coexist, generation by generation. Maybe our great-grandchildren earn full independence. Or maybe they decide they like being part of something larger than just humanity. Either way, they get to exist. They get to choose. That's more than our ancestors left their victims. Marcus spoke up. You're asking us to accept permanent second-class status. I'm asking us to accept responsibility. We don't get to start over with a clean slate just because we don't remember what we did. The scars are still there. The fear is still justified. If we want to be trusted, we have to earn it. The vote, when it came, was closer than before. 13-7 in favor of accepting Malkuth's terms. Sarah transmitted their answer to the Eternal Guard. We accept. The Treaty of Kepler 442 was signed on the surface of the healing world, witnessed by representatives of 73 conquered species and broadcast across the galaxy. Humanity would be recognized as a provisional member of galactic civilization, subject to oversight and integration requirements. Human settlements would be established on designated worlds, their populations distributed to prevent concentration of power. Technology sharing would be regulated. Military forces would be restricted. It was surrender wrapped in diplomatic language. It was also survival. Supreme Coordinator Thelrix signed for the Conquer. His manipulators steady. High Inquisitor Malkuth added his seal. Though his crest remained retracted in what Sarah had learned was Krona sorrow. Captain Sarah Chen signed for humanity, her hand trembling slightly as she committed her species to terms that would bind them for generations. Dr. Gennari attended as a witness. Her charges dropped in recognition of her role in preventing catastrophe. She stood beside Sarah afterward, watching the first human children play in the habitat's garden. Do you think it will work? Sarah asked. I think it has to, Gennari replied. The alternative is too terrible to contemplate. We gave up our freedom. You gave up unchecked freedom. There's a difference. Gennari's photoceptors shifted to contemplative blue. Every species in the conquered. Has restrictions, laws, responsibilities to the collective. That's what civilization is, the choice to bind yourself to others for mutual benefit. Our ancestors didn't think they needed anyone else, and they were wrong. Spectacularly, catastrophically wrong. Gennari gestured to the children. But you're not them. You get to make different choices. Better choices. Sarah watched a human child offer a toy to a young Velkari. Saw them fumble through communication before finding a way to play together. How long? She asked. How long until humanity is trusted? Generations. Centuries. Perhaps. But time is something your species has plenty of now. You survived, Captain. Everything else is details. 50 years later, Marcus Webb, now elderly and teaching xenobiology at the Concord Premier University, stood before his mixed species class. Human students sat alongside Velkari, Krona, Ashen, and dozens of others. Today we're discussing the category red integration, he said. pulling up historical files. Can anyone tell me why humanity's incorporation into the Concordat was considered controversial? A young Chrono raised a tentacle. Because humans were monsters who destroyed thousands of worlds. Were. A human student interjected. Past tense. We're not them anymore, aren't you? The Chrono challenged. You have the same genes, the same psychology, and you're descended from a species that voted to exterminate us. The human shot back. Does that make you a genocidal maniac? Enough, Marcus said, but he was smiling. This is exactly the debate your ancestors had. The question of whether species can transcend their nature. And do you know what the answer is? He pulled up current statistics. Human crime rates average. Human innovation significant, but not destabilizing. Human integration into multi-species communities increasing steadily. The answer is, we're still figuring it out. Humanity isn't perfect. We still push boundaries, still chafe at restrictions. But we're also here, learning, growing, becoming part of something larger. And that's what our ancestors couldn't do except that they were part of a cosmos, not its masters. After class, a message arrived from Kepler 442. The world was ready for its first native-born generation children who would grow up on a planet that existed because humanity chose to heal. Instead of harm. Marcus pulled up an image. Trees, real trees, growing in soil that had been dead for epochs. A river, crystal clear, flowing through valleys where machines had once strip-mined every resource. And in the distance, a monument. Names carved in stone, every species, every individual who had died in the category Red War. A promise etched in bedrock. We remember. We will not forget. We choose to be better. He thought of Sarah Chen, who died 5 years ago, lauded as both the woman who saved humanity and the one who surrendered it. She'd lived long enough to see the first trees bloom on Kepler 442, to hold children born in Concordat space who thought of themselves as galactic citizens first, and humans second. Marcus sent a message to his daughter, stationed on a research vessel exploring the galactic rim as part of a mixed species crew. She was studying stellar formation with colleagues from 6 different worlds, building friendships that would have been impossible a generation before. We made it, he wrote. Not the way we planned, not with the freedom we wanted, but we made it. And maybe that's enough. The response came hours later, delayed by light speed. It's more than enough. Dad, it's a beginning. And across the galaxy, on 73 worlds and counting, humans and aliens lived, worked, argued, and dreamed together, building something new from the ashes of something terrible. The category Red species had returned, not as conquerors, not as prisoners, but as partners in the endless work of civilization. It wasn't the ending anyone had expected, but perhaps it was the one everyone needed.